We're just waiting. I know Mr. Dro's going to be here, so it'll just be another minute or so, and a couple minutes, and we'll get going. Thanks for your patience. It's actually raining, not sitting. It's just actually. No, seriously. Oh, there you go. Okay. All right, now we're cooking.
The railing as well.
Yeah.
No, seriously. Hey, are you on your way? All right, because we're waiting for you because you're the caller. Well, you should be sorry. Yes, absolutely. All right, I'll see you in a bit.
Close.
Well, when somebody tells you they're 2 minutes away, I thought you'd agree.
Close. But probably not 2 minutes.
Usually people exaggerate and say, "Oh, I'm just turning around to get street and really a mile and a half away."
Yeah. Hi, Doreen. How you doing? Okay.
I'm glad you didn't set out September's. I sent you September's.
Yeah, you did.
But they're only September's. They're not year to date.
Okay.
So I didn't catch it. Heather caught it this morning.
Okay.
But I thought, well, I'll just resend it. So we'll just talk about August numbers.
And there's probably...
If you want to talk about September, I have them.
Okay, who's on the phone now? All right, thank you.
doesn't go all the way in.
Oh, it's just going to keep it charged. There we go. Okay. That's our phone connection, so I think there is going to be there. Good morning. Who's on the phone? No one yet. Okay. We're just waiting for Commissioner Giroux here, and then we'll have a quorum. What's that?
Oh, you're echoing.
Yeah.
Feedback. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert.
So we have a quorum here?
We do have a quorum now if we want to start. Commissioner Giroux will be here in just a moment. Okay.
You got any of that?
Maybe I'll get off of this here. Okay. All right. I'd like to call the meeting on the Nevada Commission of Off-Highway Vehicles at 0840 in the morning. Our proverbial Pledge of Allegiance is next on the item, so we can face the Capitol. It's kind of an awkward situation.
Which way is it?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Can't hear you.
That better, Charlie?
That's better.
All right, thank you.
We had to ad-lib our own pledge.
Yeah. All right. Roll call. Commissioner Cox.
Present.
Commissioner Elmore is excused. Commissioner Baker. Present. Commissioner Drow will be here in just a little minutes. Commissioner Griggs. Commissioner Jackson.
Present.
Commissioner Lambert.
Present.
On the phone. Commissioner Lee. Present. Commissioner Richardson. And Commissioner McKay. We have a quorum. Item number 4 is public comment. Is there any public comment from Carson City? Very well. Is there any public comment in Las Vegas?
No public comment.
Okay. Any public comment on the phone? Very well. With that, I will close public comment. Next item is meeting minutes. The commissioners will vote to approve the minutes from the commission meeting held on August 20th, 2015. Do I have a motion to approve, and we can get into any discussion or changes if you want?
Commissioner Lee, motion to approve.
Very good. First by Commissioner Lee. Is there a second?
Commissioner Cox also.
Okay. Actually, Commissioner Lambert just beat you out a little bit, Charlie, so we'll go with that. Any discussion of the minutes? Any corrections? Very well. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Or call for the vote, excuse me. All those in favor say aye.
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 Abstain.
And Commissioner Jackson's abstaining because he was absent from the meeting last time. Very well. Minutes are approved. Okay. Number 6, discussion and possible action on a partnership with the Nevada Office of Grants for our Executive Secretary position. For discussion and possible action, the Commission may vote on whether to or not to partner with the Nevada Office of Grant Procurement, Coordination, and Management to have that office provide space and mentor the Commission's Executive Secretary in his or her duties. This has been probably a evolving situation. You know, it goes back. Kim Miller took a full-time position several months ago. She's graciously stayed on and allowed to monitor our minutes and customer inquiries and that type of stuff. But she has a full-time job, and eventually I think we need probably more services than she can provide on a consistent basis. And we had an audit that suggested we get some administrative help in our duties so the commission can move forward in several areas. The Parks Department offered a full-time position if we were willing to fund it, which we've discussed and thought that was more than we needed at this point, that probably a half-time position would be plenty. And we've also learned that our executive secretary is a state employee and therefore entitled to benefits that we didn't necessarily provide to our past recipients. So Sue Baker, Michael Giroux, and myself, along with Sheila Lambert and Raylene, our Deputy Attorney General, have been working on a partnership agreement which had outlined some of the duties that little supervision and training that the grants office could provide us on this executive secretary so she could process our grant paperwork so we'd be in compliance. So that's kind of a brief little overview, and I don't know if Sheila, if you'd like to come up and talk about it and introduce your partner also, your boss.
Thank you, Sheila Lambert, for the record, Chief of Grant Management for the State of Nevada. And with me today is the Director of Administration. You can probably introduce yourself better than I can.
Thank you, Sheila. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. I'm Patrick Cates, Director of the Department of Administration. I'm new in my job, about a month into it, so I apologize for coming to the party late. I did come from Department of Wildlife, whom you've granted funds to in the past, so I'm certainly familiar with what you do and your statutory mandate. I became aware as I took this position of this executive secretary position and discussions about the grants office supervising that position. I'll tell you, I do have some concerns about that. The grants office is charged in statute with seeking grant opportunities for agencies, training them, but not actually running their grant programs. And I think it goes beyond the mandate of the grants office. I think it was very well intended, and I know that Sheila has really been instrumental in helping this commission sort of stand up its program and create a formal grant process, and I certainly commend her for that. What I would like to offer is that I will work to find a suitable place for that position. I have had discussions with the governor's staff about this issue, and I'm confident that we can find a good place for that person to reside and get day-to-day supervision. I also would offer that Sheila's office would certainly train that position and provide input and guidance as well. But in terms of housing it and day-to-day supervision, I think we need to find a better home for that position. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I do apologize. I know this has been evolving. You guys have been discussing it. And I'm coming into this kind of late, but that's kind of how I see it. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
This is Commissioner Baker.
Go ahead.
Just to clarify, though, you'd be willing to start it off just as long as it's not a permanent coordination, right? I thought we were at the point where you would be willing to house it and start it off, just knowing that that wasn't going to be the permanent place for that position to reside. Is that correct?
For the record, Patrick Cates, I do not think that position should reside in the grants office. I think we need to find another home for it. We will certainly train the person, but they should not reside in that office. As a matter of fact, we're looking at moving those staff to a different location, and it might make it challenging to even accommodate the person. Right. And I do apologize. I know this is contrary to prior discussions with Sheila, but I just became aware of this arrangement this week. So those are my concerns. That's my position at this point.
Okay. For the record, Chairman McKay, so we still would have the ability for our executive secretary candidate to get the necessary training to process the grants. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. I think where that occurs, or they could actually even work out of their own home, would still be acceptable to move forward. So it's my opinion anyway. So.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just concur with that. Absolutely, her office can train the person and provide technical advisement, and I'm very confident that we can find a home for that position. Department of Motor Vehicles collects funds for this program. Parks has at one point offered staffing for this position. I intend to revisit that with multiple agencies. We also have an administrative services division within my department that does run programs for some agencies. I'm not quite certain today what the best solution would be, but I'm committed to work with you and with the governor's office to find a suitable office location for that and for that person to get day-to-day supervision. And absolutely, they will continue to receive support and training from Sheila's office.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson, did you have any questions?
No, you actually
okay.
Commissioner Baker.
Go ahead, Commissioner Baker.
I'm disturbed because this is not the direction, even as of yesterday, in the email from Sheila with regard to we would house the person, we can go forward with the recruitment process, and the understanding that it would be not a long-term, not forever, but we'll start off with it so that we can get this person going. And I have to question now, we did all of this and posted the announcement based on it residing in that office, and so it almost yet again derails the entire process we've been trying to do to hire a secretary. So that's really disturbing to me. The second part of that is with regard to finding a place for this person to reside. That's not our long-term goal. Our long-term goal is to find a place for us to reside so that we have a partnership with a state division that has access to things so that we know what's going on. So it's not just, at least from my position and from the audit, it wasn't to find a place to house the secretary so that they can show up at work in an office. It was to have true support for us, understanding what we do and having staff that can help us and partners back with that division, whether it be the tourism division, the parks division, and then those were the ones we were exploring, and then Sheila joined in to say, oh, let us help you be the partner. So I don't want to, I appreciate that you're willing to help us find a place for the secretary, but in my mind, our goal was much more bigger than that. It was to find a true partner within the state so that we're not off not knowing the rules, and just like with the whole secretary thing, just finding out 2.5 years into the program or 3 years into the program, oh, you're supposed to have them be an employee of the state. If we were under a division, we would know that. We would have that support. We're all just 11 people that are volunteering, and we're supposed to somehow know everything. And it's just disturbing to me. And so it's great that you would be willing to help us, but we need to have that bigger picture conversation. And perhaps you are the perfect person to help us get that word out to the governor and whoever else can help us with that, because we're trying so hard on our own to find that partnership, and it seems like everybody's shutting their door to us. And so I apologize, but it's just really frustrating to me that this is where we're at today. I don't know who else wants to chime in. I would love to hear the input of the other commissioners with regard to that.
This is Chairman McKay for the record. I understand your misgivings here. And I think if you looked at that audit recommendation closely, it said that we needed to seek legislation to have a host agency. So this is kind of an attempt to bridge that gap a little bit. So technically we have to do it legislatively to have a formal arrangement unless we can work something out otherwise. But I understand your misgivings. I think really is what we need is executive secretary that's trained in our grants type stuff, they're willing to provide that. They're willing to provide a space. It's not the ultimate solution, but it's still an ability to move forward here. So I'll listen to. I think I'll let Sheila go ahead and give us a few thoughts.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Baker, I apologize. There's been a lot of changes at the state. But the support that Director Cates and the governor's office has been wants to provide at this point is to make a long-term solution. And I think what one of the challenges is we knew that my office was going to be interim and that there was going to be change yet again and again. And we actually have an opportunity over the next few weeks to actually just work with the powers that be who could actually support with those other divisions and departments in determining this long-term solution as to who should be supporting OHV, where is the best house. So it seems like there's a slight derailment, but I would counter that to say that instead of finding a patch, the opportunity is to provide permanent solution for the challenge. And when it comes to the grants are going to close on 10/29. Whomever is hired for that position still has our full support. We're not going anywhere until we get you to a place where you can manage those.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
For the record, Patrick Cates, if I could just add to that, I am suggesting a permanent solution for the commission and a partner. The grants office simply does not have the capacity nor the statutory mandate to operate a program. I am confident that you can continue with your recruitment and that we can find a suitable place for this position to be supported and therefore to support the commission in the timeline, and roughly the timeline that you've been talking about. I'm going to reach out to multiple agencies, and I can think of multiple potential solutions that I think I can resolve in very short order to resolve this issue for you.
Commissioner Jackson?
Commissioner Jackson, Chair, well, I suggest that maybe the committee meet again. Obviously, if we can get a resolution in short order, that would be great. But we are down to a few weeks, so maybe if the committee could meet again and sort of get that worked out, and I'm sure the rest of the commission will go along with their recommendation. So.
Okay. Chairman McKay, for the record, yeah, I think we could go ahead and repost this because it has a benefit package. The other one didn't for one good reason. And then we can work with administration to the little more permanent situation as far as a place to be and some training. So I think it probably would necessitate that the committee may have to meet again in fairly short order to see what solution works best for both.
Chairman McKay.
Commissioner
Jackson, point of information, do we have to have benefits for a part-time employee?
For the record, Patrick Cates, yes, if it's a half-time position, it comes with benefits.
Yeah. And Chairman McKay, for the record, if you'd like a little rundown, we have an estimate of what the benefits and salary would run us for this half-time position.
Don't do that for my benefit. I'll do that.
Okay. Safe to say say if it was a $20.27 per hour position, the total cost per year with all benefits, which would include the insurance, Medicaid, the payroll assessment, workers' comp, the IT assessment, and PERS. The lower end's $35,440. If it was at the full $30 an hour, it ended up being $48,206, which we judge will have sufficient funds in our treasury to accomplish both. And we were going to leave the salary open. We're adding benefits to it, so it might be attractive, and we probably want to see if we can leave some room in there as the employee progresses or has good performance. So that's just a little information as far as the benefit package. So yes, Commissioner Lee.
Just as a question, isn't it true that if it's under 19 hours, we don't have to pay benefits? Is that the cutoff?
The information I was provided from Human Resources is you can have a .49 position or a .51 position. In order for recruitment and benefits and having those at the .51 position, it is with prorated benefits. If you choose to have the .49 position, I would have to go back to Human Resources. By the way, Sheila Lambert, for the record, I'd have to go back to Human Resources to get all the details as to what the mandates would be.
And Chairman McKay, for the record, we did have a lot of discussion too. We wanted to do as much as have a permanent solution as a temporary one. We thought that perhaps we would attract a higher caliber of employee if we had a better benefit package. And of course, if they didn't perform, we have the luxury of finding a replacement. So.
Commissioner Baker, I just wanted two things. The salary range for the executive secretary per the state was the $20.27 to $29.97. And it was my recollection when we talked about the .49, they get benefits, but they're paid through Manpower, and we have to hire them through Manpower. And so that was sort of our thoughts, that we would have a more committed long-term employee if we went through the state versus going through Manpower. So that was our thoughts on that, just to share with the rest of the group.
And for the record, Chairman McKay again, and if we did go through Manpower, and if they end up hiring them, we pay them a 33% fee on top of everything else. So it really ends up narrowing the range whether we offer something with benefits or go through Manpower. Go ahead.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record.
Sure.
Doing a 5.1 employee actually does help us a little bit, because if that employee does have to start working 30 hours a week for a 6-month period or some elongated period, we don't have to go changing everything. They just basically get paid a little bit more. So I think a 5.1 is much better for us anyway.
Chair McKay and fellow members of the commission, we're getting off topic. I know why it happened, because we thought that the commission was going in one direction, and so of course now you're changing the direction based on what's happened. But unfortunately, this is agendaed for one specific item, and that is to decide whether or not to partner with the grants office, and it seems like that's off the table now. So unfortunately, you can't discuss anymore the executive secretary or how you're going to handle it, or was being in violation of the open meeting law. I believe that in the prior meeting, some direction was given to the subcommittee on what they could do and what they couldn't do. So they will have to agenda a meeting and do what the commission has authorized them to do, but there really shouldn't be any more discussion because it's just not on the agenda.
All right, Chairman McKay, for the record, then the subcommittee will continue its work with administration and have a public meeting to discuss what we come up with. So, any other comments on this that aren't off agenda? All right, move forward to the next topic. Thank you very much. Item number 7 is discussion and possible action on determining who will sit on the grant scoring committee. For discussion and possible action, Section 20 of the recently adopted regulations to Chapter 490 of the Nevada Administrative Code requires the Commission to select individuals who will serve on its grant scoring committee for the grant applications that will be received by the Commission pursuant to its recent funding announcement and request for proposals for fiscal year 2015 to 2016. The Nevada Administrative Code requires the committee to be comprised of non-voting advisors to or members of the Commission, or a combination of both non-voting advisors and members. The Commission will vote to select who will serve on the committee. This is somewhat of a housekeeping item. I know the Commission has discussed who will be on the non-voting committee, but we never had a formal motion. I'm assuming that everyone on the commission will be able to be and score on these applications unless there's a conflict of interest. So I don't know if there's any more discussion on that by the commission. Any objections to everyone on the commission being able to score the grants?
Need a motion on that?
Have one second. Okay. Hearing no other discussion, Commissioner Jackson, you have a motion?
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I would make a motion that all members of the commission be part of the scoring committee. In addition, there will be non-voting members which will be selected in another motion.
Very well. Do we have a second to that?
Commissioner Drew, second that.
Okay. Discussion? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. You want to try another motion on the non-voting advisors, or do you want to have a little discussion first?
Well, I think we need to discuss who's on that.
True. And actually, I believe in our grant application that the non-voting advisors are non-voting, that they will provide us information, whether it's compliant with their respective agencies' concerns, and maybe offer some constructive advice to us, but they will not vote on the grants.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record.
Go ahead.
I just want a clarification, and probably our AG can help out on this. We will be voting on the after we went through the process of scoring these applications. We will be voting on whether or not to fund these grants, and those votes will have to be made by the commissions. So obviously advisors will not vote at that point. But is there, on the scoring, is that really counted as a vote? Are they scoring it, that score, a non-voting advisor, if they score a 60, for the sake of argument, is that score put in with everybody else's score, and is that counted as a vote?
Sheila, come up.
You adopted some regulations, and the regulations say that the commission will determine who will be on the scoring committee. That can be comprised of commissioners, non-voting advisors, or a combination of both. So their score would certainly be reflective in the ranking of the applications, but they would not be part of the final vote when the commissioners choose who gets funded. And that's only if you choose to have them as part of the scoring committee. You can decide not to include them in the scoring committee, but the regulations give you that flexibility.
Thank you, Raylene. And Sheila, would you like to add some testimony?
Thank you, Sheila Lambert, for the record. Currently, the way that we have worked on the application is that the non-voting members for the regulation will be reviewing for the integrity, as well as since they represent many of the similar communities as OHV, they'll be able to determine if there is any duplication of services so that we are not getting crosswise with the supplant regulations. But at this point in time, the only voting individuals, the way that we had drafted, was going to be the commission. If you would like to change that.
No, I don't.
Okay. Thank you for that. Very well. Any further discussion by commissioners? So perhaps for clarification, we just have a motion that non-voting advisors will not be scoring the applications?
Well, she didn't say that. It's still scoring.
No?
Commissioner Jackson, so again, I just want clarification, and if I sound a little dumb, that's okay. When an advisor will be scoring the application or not?
No.
All right, so the advisor is not scoring it at all?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, if the commission, that's a determination that you have to make, whether or not they'll be scoring. That hasn't been decided. That's the purpose of the vote today.
Commissioner Lambert, for the record.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lambert.
Would we entertain having the non-voting advisor score, but not counting that score, so it's kept as a separate scorecard so you can see where they're at, so it's not an influence on the voting commission?
That's a good question.
So we let them score it, but that score would not be averaged into the averages.
All right. Go ahead, Sheila.
This is Sheila Lambert for the record. Any actual scoring of an application has to be included, and you're looking to identify who's going to provide those scores. The current regulation says the non-voting members will be, again, looking for the integrity, that it's compliant with the technical. The way that we looked at it going forward is the commissioners would, that the non-voting members would be reviewing those applications, so they would be able to identify if there were going to be any challenges or if there was any non-compliance, redundancy, supplanting. So they'll have the opportunity to review them, but those are no scores. After there is the technical process to make sure that they meet all the requirements and we don't have any of the supplanting issues, then we would submit those applications to the OHV Commission, and the commissioners, without consultation with each other, would individually score those applications, and then those would be returned what's at this time to the grant office, and then we would provide the highest scoring in list order as well as the backup material for your future commission. That would be my recommendation if you're asking.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to make it clear what the regulation says so that the commission has the full information. Once the grant office receives the applications, they then send the applications to the non-voting advisors, and they check for compliance with the statute on completeness and the other requirements. Then it goes back to the grants office, at which point a scoring sheet is placed on there, and then it's sent out to the grant scoring committee. So you have section, this is in section 27 of the regulation, and this was as it was drafted, not out as it will be codified, but in other words, this is using the LCD draft R131-14, which was approved, but it hasn't been codified yet, to my knowledge, in the actual NAC. It's been approved for that. So section 27 describes what the non-voting advisors will do, and it says that they'll independently review each grant application to ensure that the application is complete in compliance with the provisions of the other sections of the NAC and in compliance with any other regulation adopted. Then it goes to the grants office, and any that are determined by the non-voting advisors to be incomplete then go back to the applicant if it's still within the time frame. If not, then it goes to the scoring committee, and then it talks about who the scoring committee is comprised of. And I'll give you that section in just one moment.
It's our choice.
Yeah, no, that's what I was trying to talk about.
So essentially it's up to the commission. There's a second part where it talks about the scoring committee, and that the scoring committee can be comprised of any combination of the non-voting advisors and the actual commissioners.
Well, you said that would be a secondary motion.
Right.
Okay.
Who the advisors are would be a secondary motion.
Yeah.
This is Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cox.
I would make a motion if you would like.
I'm all ears.
I would make a motion that the members of the scoring committee consist of the commissioners only.
Very well. Do I have a second?
I'll second Mr. Cox's motion.
Very well. Moved by Commissioner Cox, seconded by Commissioner Lambert. Further discussion?
Commissioner Jackson, my belief is that if we have the ability to put advisors on the scoring committee and their scores can be used, as Raylene has pointed out, I think we should. Especially, we can always change that later on. We're probably going to be looking at several rounds of grants going forward. And I think if we can get expertise from somewhere else, we should use it. If we, and we decide who those advisors are who are going to be doing the scoring, but, maybe somebody from DMV, maybe somebody from Parks and Recreation, maybe, I don't know. That's up for discussion, but I don't think that we should, I think that we should bring in as much expertise as we can, especially in the first and second round of this process. And again, we can always change that later. Thank you.
I found this section at section 20 of the regulation, and it says the commission will appoint a grant scoring committee to score applications that are submitted to the commission. The grant scoring committee must consist of non-voting advisors or members of the commission, or a combination of both as selected by the commission. One to the other.
This is Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cox.
My thought in making the motion was that, as Sheila stated, the non-voting advisors are going to get the applications, review them for how they comply, not only for completeness, but for all the other regulations they have to comply with. And they are going to make a recommendation to the scoring committee based on that information. So my thought is that we're going to have that expertise provided to us when we consider scoring.
Actually, they won't be making a recommendation. They'll be checking. It's a black and white determination whether or not they complied with the statute. So if they complied, they're just there looking at it to assist in whether or not compliance has been achieved. They won't be making a recommendation as far as whether one application is better than another.
Well, I guess I misunderstood something along the way. I would withdraw my motion.
All right. Hang tight there, Charlie, for a sec. Sheila, would you like to clarify that one more time?
Not for clarification, sure, Sheila, but for the record, many of the non-voting members, not knowing who the actual applicants are, there may be some conflicts of interest. So I just would like to, kind of put that in the commission's ear in terms of who is and who isn't selected and what relationships may be out there with some of those individuals who would be submitting. There's a lot of overlapping with many of the non-voting members and the OHV commission.
Very good.
And just to add one thing to that, that was the reason that the flexibility was built into the statute, because it's possible that some commissioners may also be conflicted. So the idea was to ensure that there would be enough people scoring the applications to have the scores be meaningful because of the possible conflicts that could arise, both from non-voting advisors and commissioners.
Okay. And Sheila, for the record, Chairman McKay, having non-voters score, that was a little different than the process that we've set up so far, right?
Sheila Lambert, yes, sir. But we can certainly work around what the commission decides, but for every additional individual you provide on that scoring committee, it dilutes the other members' scores, and it does cause, at some point, a significant burden on the process.
Okay.
Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cox.
Do we have any non-voting advisors who have expressed an interest or willingness to be on the scoring committee that will commit their time and effort to it, rather than us just picking people?
For the record, I have not had any reach out to me with that desire, and I actually, if the board recollects, we had a little discussion about Leo being a non-scoring advisor, but if BLM is going to be a participant in any of this, he's going to have to recuse himself from any voting anyway. And his personal preference is not to be that, so he has a little more flexibility on advice. So what's the pleasure of the board on this? Do we leave it just commissioners score, or are we going to allow for non-voting members to score?
Do we need to do a motion?
I do need
I
a
would-
Yes. Go ahead, Raylene.
Do you have any idea how many commissioners may be conflicted? That may give you an idea whether or not you need to include non-voting advisors.
To my recollection so far, I don't think any of them are. So we should have pretty good representation as far as the commission goes.
Commissioner Cox?
Go ahead, Charlie.
Then I will reinstate my motion that only commissioners will be on the scoring committee.
All right. And do we have a second for that motion? That just the commissioners will be on the scoring committee?
Commissioner Drew, I'll second that.
Okay. Second time around's a charm. All right. Thank you both. Any further discussion?
Commissioner Jackson, I would reassert that I think we would benefit from having a couple of quote-unquote experts who have been through this process before and maybe work for state agencies, as I think most of our non-voting advisors are. I think we would benefit from their input as to the scoring. And I also think that the more people that score, the better the averages are going to be, and we're going to get a better average. Obviously, if you take a poll of 10 people, it may be skewed. If you take a poll of 100 people, it's going to be less skewed. And I really think it's very important that we have as unskewed a scoring as we possibly can. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Baker?
Commissioner Baker, go ahead.
I agree with Paul, but the concern is we haven't had any non-voting members except Leo participate throughout this entire process. So to have basically unknown people that we don't even know if they would commit their time to doing it right now leads me to believe, due to the timing of the grants being due in a couple of weeks, I would suggest that right now we go with just the commissioners, and that we hope to get more partnership with those non-voting members participating in the whole thing, and then in our next round we can have them. But I think right now it might, well, it sounds like it would be the good thing to do. I think it might not be so good just because of their not participating in any of this process, and we don't even know who would be willing to do it. So if the motion needs to be made today, I think that's why I would support just the commissioners at this time.
All right,
Chairman
Chairman
McKay?
yes.
You've reached out to the non-voting advisors,
I
right?
have, and I have one sitting right in front of me here too that's been
Okay.
active. Yes.
Okay. Maybe you could share with the commissioners what conversations you've had and who's willing to be involved. They already have to be involved in the process of reviewing them, so maybe that will help the commission decide.
Yeah, I believe from my conversations over the last couple months, probably 6 of the 9 non-voting advisors have expressed interest in participating in the system. Yes. And I'd have to say BLM and DMV and NDOW and Fish and Wildlife and a couple others are willing to go ahead and review those applications. And I don't think there's anything that precludes some good advice along the way, but I think we'll have decent participation for the review of our applications. Doreen, would you like to add something to the conversation?
As a non-voting member, I do know that in NRS, each division should be granting the OHV Commission their non-voting advice. And I think that reaching out to them or finding the ones that will participate, and if you find a division that does not participate, then reach out to that director and ask for somebody else, because I think that you will get a lot of feedback. And I know that if asked, willingness is through the Department of Motor Vehicles to help you in any way.
For the record, Chairman McKay, I have no doubt of that. And I have done that when I've talked to all the agency heads where there wasn't a willing individual there. So we may do better than 6 out of 9 as it is. So, any other further comments from commissioners?
Commissioner Jackson, I know this may sound like splitting the baby in half, but would the maker of the motion accept a friendly amendment to have all the commissioners on the scoring plus DNV and BLM, them being the only two advisors who would be doing the scoring, since there does seem to be willingness to do that, and we do know those members.
Just a point of discussion. I've spoke with Leo about this, and the concerns I had. I mean, Leo's been invaluable in advice and stuck it out with us for years. But being a member of BLM, who may be a future recipient of awards, he'll probably have to conflict the interest himself out anyway.
A couple of them,
yeah. And actually, not only in that one category, but every other category across the board.
It's a good challenge to see if you accept the amendment.
Leo, would you like to echo that or put in a different thing?
I asked for a friendly amendment.
All right.
So,
hang on one second.
There's not been responded to.
Okay. Charlie, what do you think about that?
This is Commissioner Cox. I would be willing to amend the motion that the commissioners and any other non-voting member who steps forward and says they will commit to it, because that's what they're there for. They're there to advise us. So if there are some non-voting members who are willing to step forward out of all those agencies you mentioned, because I too would like as many to participate as possible. It's just that they have, at this point, I haven't seen their commitment to do so. So if they're willing to step forward, commit to it, and do it, I don't see a problem with them scoring.
You accept that too?
But there again, time is of the essence.
You're the seconder. You're going to say yay or nay? Yes, you accept it, no, you don't.
Commissioner Giroux, for the record, I guess I just don't want to go down that convoluted territory it seems like we're going to. And that was why I seconded the original motion to just run the commissioners, just so we can get on with this program and get this grants out in the beginning. I do see where having more people give us, their expert advice will help us. But for right now, I think our number one process is to get some grants out and get some projects going. And I just see a delay by adding anything that's going to convolute this. As far as from a layman's point of view, say for BLM, that they're going to, go for grant money. So it basically precludes him to vote not only on any projects he has working, but to someone else that's a conflict. Because if he says, well, they're no good because they'll help us get the bid, and I think that's going to create another problem and, again, slow the process. That's my input.
Commissioner Jackson,
Just
for
to
the
be
record,
clear.
I'd be happy to second the amended motion. So there is a second, and the motion can be.
Commissioner Lambert, for the record.
All right. Go ahead, Commissioner Lambert.
We've put a lot of effort into finding good advice, and Sheila Lambert has provided good advice for us. And I was in favor of the first motion, but I find myself far less in favor of the amended motion. We could readdress this if Sheila Lambert has it wrong. I don't think she does. I think that the commission should vote and advisors should advise.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Raylene, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the time frames are spelled out very clearly in your regulations. So whatever decision you make will not affect the time frame for the actual vote. And the participation of the non-voting advisors, either they will or they won't. It's not a matter of holding anything up. And anybody who's conflicted, whether it be a non-voting advisor or one of the commissioners, would not be able to participate. So that's not an issue. Just I wanted you to have all the information.
Okay, thank you. Leo and then Sheila. All right, a gentleman. Sheila, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Sheila Lambert for the record. That's not entirely correct. The amount of work it's going to take to process from 11 reviewers, as that number increases, it's going to be increasingly difficult for us to make those deadlines there's a level of work for every reviewer that's on a panel and putting that all together for not only the review cycle, but verifying all of the scoring criteria. So the more individuals, the more work it does put on our office. And if there are additional people added, I can't guarantee that we can maintain those time frames. Thank you.
Thank you. Leo?
For the record, Leo Drum of Bureau of Land Management. I've been on several review committees for the state and national grant programs. All of the reviewers are given a review schedule, the criteria that you use to make determinations as to whether or not each category met the intent of the grant program. And those are usually pretty concise, that you can say, well, they either got this or not. You can score it on a level, say 1 to 5. Regardless of what the project is or who's supplying that project, each reviewer should look at that independently and not weigh in their own personal views. They should be able to articulate why they made the decision they did. For example, whether the project is feasible, and there's maybe a paragraph that says how they're going to do it, and you have another project that goes into great detail. You'll probably score the one that's in greater detail higher than the one that has less detail. And you can articulate how you came to that decision. That said, you can always say whatever you want about conflict of interest. If anything is going to occur on public land and that would create a conflict of interest for me, then I shouldn't be scoring anything. You can make those determinations. Each one of our, in fact, we're actually prohibited from applying for grants anyway. There'll be third parties who work in conjunction with our field offices to submit a proposal. We will only say whether or not that if funding occurs that they will be allowed to perform those projects on public land. We won't even give them a letter of support, just in case there is another project somewhere in the pipeline that we aren't trying to influence the decision of the commission. So I just wanted to clarify a few things that generally there are criteria that you use. It's not just I like this project, I don't like that project, and there we are. So I have plenty to do. If I don't need to be scoring something, I'll do my statutory responsibility of checking the projects and making sure they're compliant with our laws, and the rest of it is up to you.
Okay. Very well. Would you like to add a comment to this process?
If I may, I would like to add a comment. For the record, Patrick Cates, Director, Department of Administration. I just want to share with you a little experience that I have with the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners. They have the Heritage Grant Program that they administer every year. They issue grants every year, total amount ranging from $500,000 to $1 million. The grant applications are received by the department. The department submits grants. The department provides recommendations as to their priority of the grants that they're submitting. But the commissioners are the only ones who score, the only ones who vote and make decisions on issuing those grants. During their deliberations, they'll have the grant proponents come forward and answer any questions, and sometimes they call on staff and other experts to provide input. But in no way, shape, or form is there anybody other than the commissioners scoring and voting on approving grants, and I would strongly urge you to follow that model. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I think everyone's had a chance to comment on this. I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Should I make it easy on you, say it didn't pass? All right. So therefore, the previous motion that all members of the commission will score and non-voting advisors will not score.
Very well. This motion failed.
All right.
I mean, to make it clean.
All right. To make it clean, I'll entertain a motion that just members of the commission will score these grants.
Commissioner Jarrell, I'd like to make a motion.
Very good. Thank you. Do we have a second? Oh, make the motion first.
I would just like to make the motion that the commissioners do the scoring
Very well.
only.
Do we have a second?
Commissioner Cox, I'll second it.
Very good. Thank you, Charlie. Call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Very well. Thank you for that difficult topic there. All right. I'll go to item number 8, discussion and possible action regarding the Nevada Office of Criminal Justice Assistance change of recommendation to law enforcement award to Washoe County Sheriff's Office for discussion and possible action. Commission will vote on a recommendation from the Nevada Office of Criminal Justice Assistance to permit Washoe County Sheriff's Office to utilize the law enforcement award funds previously granted to them to purchase different equipment from the previously agreed upon. And for the record, I have a letter from Sharice Witt stating that the Office of Criminal Justice has reviewed the Washoe County's Sheriff's Office request to purchase a Razor 1004 instead of the originally approved 2 motorcycles. The Office of Criminal Justice Assistance recommends that the Commission allow the change of equipment requested as the equipment still fulfills the intent of their goals. However, the Office of Criminal Justice Assistance recommends not increasing the amount of the award. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office may make up the difference in pricing with other funding, as it is their choice to change that type of equipment. As other agencies have been unsatisfied with the amount of their funding, it would not behoove the Commission to provide an increase in funding for one project and not the others. So the Washoe County Sheriff's Office is agreeing to make up the cost difference out of their own budget. And we have a recommendation from the Office of Criminal Justice to allow them to change the type of equipment they're purchasing. I would ask for a motion to approve the change of equipment with those conditions with the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. Okay, you can abstain, all right?
No,
Yeah,
the motion.
I hear you. Does anyone?
This is Commissioner Cox.
Yes, go ahead, Charlie.
I'll make the motion Washoe County Sheriff be allowed to change the equipment.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Lambert, I'll second.
Very good. Thank you, Gary. All right. Any further discussion? Commissioner Lee, go ahead.
Just since this is a law enforcement grant, just to disclose that the sheriff of Lincoln County and affiliated with a law enforcement agency in the state, I don't think I have a conflict because it's not changing the price or doing anything like that. So I still feel I can vote, but I just wanted to make sure that the public knew that, I'm affiliated with law enforcement and the sheriff of Lincoln County. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for that. Any other comments? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Motion carries unanimously.
For the record, Commissioner Jackson, abstention.
Very good. Commissioner Jackson abstains. All right. All right. Item number 9. Discussion and possible action on the Commission's Public Education and Outreach in 2016 for discussion and possible action. The Commission will discuss its plans for public education outreach for the year 2016. Topics may include public education outreach efforts by the Commission to the Nevada Off-Highway Vehicle Clubs, public and private landowners, Nevada Off-Highway Vehicle businesses, Nevada law enforcement agencies, local, state, and federal entities, and any potential partners. It may also discuss a more extensive lobbying effort for public access in Nevada, the possibility of drafting a legislative bill for securing its support prior to the 2017 legislative session. Commissioner Baker may also discuss joint efforts with Clark County Desert Preservation Program, Nevada Office of Tourism, and Nevada Office of Transportation. So what I just wanted to have here is a little general discussion on how we're going to do more extensive public education and outreach in the state. And Sue, would you be comfortable to talk a little bit about your efforts with those three agencies, and just that we're in discussions and possible things that may happen in the future?
Absolutely. This is Commissioner Baker for the record. Well, I have talked to the Division of Tourism, and they're excited about future opportunities, although I don't know that we have anything on the plate right now, and the same with the other agencies. However, the Clark County Desert Conservation Program has been working with me and the BLM, and we've got a pretty good idea of what we'd like to do. I've sort of shared it with you guys a little bit. And so two of the staff from the program are here today, and I'd like to introduce you to them and then let them present to you a proposal that they have for us. In keeping in mind, they're willing to spend money to help us with outreach. They're limited. They can create the message for us, but the actual getting the word out can only be limited to Clark County because of their funds coming from Clark County. And so when you hear what they're proposing, I want to keep in mind that it would be all their money, and they're asking if we would be willing to put some money in to do the outreach outside of Clark County. And so with our $700,000 that we have in our next grant process, 15% of it can go to public outreach, which is $105,000. And I know we unfortunately didn't have on the agenda to talk about how many people had given their intent to go forward with a grant, so we would know who from public outreach was applying. But I think we want to keep in mind that maybe we wouldn't want to award the full $105,000 in the grants and set aside some of that money to foster what you're going to hear now. So I'm just setting that as thinking of in the back of your mind. But if you guys would want to come on up and introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit about your program briefly, and then talk about the scope of work that you sent over to me yesterday afternoon.
Jenkins with Clark County Desert Conservation Program.
And Larry Matter with the Desert Conservation Program, Clark County.
So just to give a brief overview of what the program does, we are a division within Clark County. We manage Endangered Species Act compliance for all the local jurisdictions within Clark County. So we administer a permit for take of federally listed species habitat within Clark County. Part of administration of that permit is conducting mitigation actions that would offset development within the county. Those mitigation actions include a wide array of different projects, a portion of which includes public outreach and education. We also foster programs to offset impacts from OHV recreation within the county. So what we have proposed is a partnership with the OHV Commission to support marketing and outreach efforts to promote the OHV registration program. I understand that OHV registration in the county has been relatively low, currently estimated about 10% of all users in the county, and so we'd like to provide some assistance to help you increase the registration within the county and hopefully make more funding available for grant programs in the future. So what we have provided is a draft scope of work that would be put out as a request for proposals, and the scope of work is to develop a marketing plan to promote the OHV registration program and for implementation of media placement throughout the county. So what we would also propose in addition to that is discussion about entering into an interlocal agreement with the county so that we could outline funding contributions from both parties and determine what roles and responsibilities each entity would have throughout the RFP process and as well as the contract administration portion of it. But we are offering up our contract administration services and some funding to support this work.
And I just want to expand on that in that what you have here. I can send to everybody the draft scope of work that she put together, but it's pretty comprehensive with regard to discussing helping develop the marketing plan and then creating the marketing material, which can be used throughout the state. But then when they actually go to push out the message, their funding can only cover within Clark County. And the financial commitment on their end, explain it because it was twofold, right?
Yes, so the scope of work that we've prepared actually consists of two different tasks that are very similar in nature. So the first task is to prepare marketing messaging materials to promote OHV responsible use in the county. And that would be funded entirely with money from the Desert Conservation Program. The second task is to prepare marketing and advertising materials to support the OHV registration program. And we're proposing to provide approximately $100,000 of our funds to support that project. And again, that would be for development of the marketing plan itself and for placement of some of the advertising messaging as well.
So what they're asking of us now is to say, are you interested in partnering? And the first part of it, which is promoting the OHV responsible use, they're committing $100,000 to that project as well. So it would be a $200,000 commitment to public education and outreach for the two programs. And then they're just asking, so what they're looking for from us today is, would we like to partner with them? And if we would we have any money to spread the marketing outside of Clark County that we would want to put right into the program to begin with, so that when they solicit the bids, they know that that's a second additional component to the RFP. And then they want to know what level of detail we want to participate in reviewing the final scope before it goes out to bid, in interviewing the proposals and selecting the candidate, and then as far as the meetings that follow thereafter, what level of involvement the group would want to have, or they would want to assign a subcommittee to do that. So that's what's on the table today for discussion.
But I don't think that you can vote on that. It's not on the agenda, that specifically. So I think the best that you can do is to come up with a clear idea of what it is you want to bring back to the commission and put that on the agenda for a vote at a future date. And you can certainly talk about these things, but you're not going to be able to act upon.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you, Sue, and thank you for that. And I think it's a great start, and I think it'd be great if we could do a partnership on this. It's a win-win situation. Sue, to answer your question from earlier, there is one advertising agency that submitted a letter of interest as an applicant. So I'm not sure of the details, at the very best. they could spend 30% of that, public education outreach account if it was a good grant. And Raylene and I have spoken a little bit, and I think we probably have to nail down an answer if we can, on the public outreach education, have a process where we can directly award that with a competitive RFP bid to get that job done. So that's probably an answer we'll have to get definitively if we have money left over in this account, or we have to go out for the next round to do it. So I don't know if you
In
want
my
to.
opinion,
Yes.
the regulations do permit the commission to do direct spending.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the statutes permit
Okay.
the commission to do direct spending.
Okay.
Commissioner Lambert, for the record.
Yes, go ahead, Gary.
It sounds as though this is going to come back to us and we can look at it in the future. I would request that all of these activities and documents be dispersed within the commission for at least 2 weeks, as it is a complex topic, and that we are nowhere near being able to proceed with anything more than getting something seen. We haven't seen what their message is that they're suggesting. This is truly something that we need to see documentation as the public before we go any further.
Yeah, I understand. Good point. This is really just kind of a little open discussion today, and we can certainly have a good review period.
I can appreciate that, Chairman. I just wanted to make it clear that this wasn't the sort of thing that should actually go very far without documentation available to the public and the commission.
Yes.
And that documentation should be brought forward with plenty of time for review.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Calkins?
No, that's all.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, if we're done with Commissioner Baker's
Name for the record,
portion of this.
Name for the record.
Name for the record.
Okay. Larry Calkins, Nevada Four-Wheel Drive Association. Nevada Four-Wheel Drive Association is a statewide organization of four-wheel drive vehicle owners and enthusiasts. We represent not only trucks, Jeeps, but also four-wheel drive ATV and UTV statewide. I can't speak for the other volunteer organizations that we're affiliated with, but the Nevada Four-Wheel Drive Association would be glad to take any materials developed by the OHV Commission and distribute them to the public on our website, our Facebook page, and our membership booth as we go to different events throughout the state. We'd be glad to have and to promote any of these public outreach messages, pamphlets, whatever that the commission comes up with. I just wanted to make sure that you folks know you have some free distribution, and we hope to go forward with that.
All right, thank you very much.
This is Commissioner Baker.
Commissioner Baker, go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify to Gary that the proposal that the Desert Conservation Program is offering is to put $200,000 towards going out for a proposal that other marketing and public relation agencies would bid on and give us back a proposal, and then we would continue to work with them with the messaging. So it's not that they're coming with a
I understand
messaging.
that. What I don't understand is why the proposal hasn't been followed with proper documentation prior to discussion.
Oh, well, we have just been in dialogue with them about this, and just late yesterday afternoon, she put together the draft scope of work. So it's nothing that was. It's just the concept of, is this a good thing for us? And in general, is the commission excited about this offer and wanting to go forward? There's nothing else that's been developed at this point other than the concept of partnering with them and going out for the RFP.
All I stated was that I would want to see that concept penciled out so that I could see what I was voting on, have a clear understanding, bring up questions and concerns. At this point, we're discussing something that I have nothing in writing on, and I'm uncomfortable going farther than that. I'm comfortable with suggesting that you bring something forward
Okay. Mr. Gers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott Gers, Nevada Trail Stewards. I'd like to echo the sentiment that Larry Calkins brought up from Nevada Rural Drive. The Trail Stewards obviously are working in conjunction with many local and state organizations to spread the word for the OHV Commission to bring about compliance. We would definitely feel concerned that at this late date especially, that the Commission would be entertaining the thought of separating some of those grant funds out and giving them to a designated environmental group to be able to promote or not promote off-highway vehicle use. Want to make sure that we are continuing to look back at the main charge of the Commission, and it is to promote off-highway vehicle use in the state. Keep that in mind as we go towards these grants and make sure that we're moving along that line. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Chairman McKay, for the record, I put this on here just to discuss some ideas. Obviously, the public outreach education component needs to be developed in this state for better participation. And if we can reach out to all the clubs, all the BLM and Forest Service districts, businesses, trade organizations, etc., get their input and support and buy-in, we can all move forward. It was really just, the intention is we need to get our presence out there more and develop some better partnerships with people. So that was my intent of actually putting this on here today. Any other commissioner comments?
Yes, this is Commissioner Cox.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Cox.
I do think this is a good idea to try to develop a partnership with them, and especially if they're willing to develop the message for us. And that's something we've talked about in the past, is what the exact message is we want to get out there. So I think as we look forward to the future and them coming with some documentations, we'll have a very good idea. And even though they're a conservation group, they did state that they are willing to support the off-highway vehicle program for responsible use and recreation, and that's what we're about as well. So I think it's a good idea to move, investigate more and try to move forward from this point.
Commissioner Jackson?
Commissioner Jackson, I just want to make one point as a sort of general point. OHV use and organization and preservation groups are not mutually exclusive. And I think that we can work with groups. Most of the people I know who ride OHVs or utilize the trails are themselves conservationists. They want to conserve what we have. So again, I don't think that the two goals are mutually exclusive, and I think we can move forward with the right messaging.
Chairman McKay, for the record, I echo Mr. Cox's, Mr. Jackson's comments. And an opportunity with the right message to be presented to 70% of the state population is not a bad thing, and maybe something that we can piggyback on with the rest of the state. So I appreciate we're here to promote OHV use in all respects, but if the message is right, I think the message will apply to everyone. So thank you. Any further commissioner comments? Okay.
Chair McKay?
Yes, go ahead,
I just wanted
Randy.
to clarify one thing based on Mr. Gertz's comment. He said that he didn't want the grant money being utilized in this manner. That's not his exact words, but what I wanted to clarify is that it's not grant money. It's optional money that the commission may utilize for grants. So I just wanted that to be clear.
There's a distinction there. Thank you, Counselor. All right. Next item, DMV reports. Good morning, ladies. Thank you for coming.
Okay, I'm going to report up through August 31st. The Department of Motor Vehicles had sent in incorrect numbers on the first one, so you had a corrected one, and I do see that that's the one on the table. actually changing some formats, and I pulled from the incorrect spot. But the one that I am going to read is the one that's on the table. So registration fees, we've collected $36,942 year-to-date for FY16. Registration fee renewals, $183,000. Replacement decals were 15. Title processing fees, $11,220. Title fees for the titles, $27,740.70. Title fees out of state, $175. VIN assignments, $22. Late fees, $15,750. Our operating costs totals were $34,444.35. OHV registrations done up to August 31st was 849. Renewals 5,552. Duplicate decals 16. Titles processed 664. Phone calls we answered 1,861. Mail correspondence processed 432. And the total active registrations as of August 31st were 40,462. Now there was a quarterly distribution, so we're going to let Heather take the table for that.
Heather Hawkins-Fancher, Management Analyst at the DMV, for the record. We will be making our first quarterly distribution to the Commission since that funding change that went into effect last legislative session. The disbursement should probably hit your account by the end of this month. That's being processed today. And the total amount that will be distributed in this first distribution is $696,135.29. That is above our projections that we had given you at last meeting. So we're trending above those projections at this point.
I think that may be the best news of the day. Thank you very much. Any questions? Commissioner Durrell?
Commissioner Joe, for the record. Now, you stated this is as of 8/31/15. This is year to date, or just for a month, or just for the quarter?
My numbers that I read are as of August 31st, so it would include from July 1 to August 31st.
Great. Okay.
So just the quarter.
Yes.
Okay.
The quarterly distribution numbers that I reported, those are for the entire quarter. So that's July through September 30th.
Okay.
So it just takes us a while for all those distributions to hit and everything. That's why the disbursement won't happen until the end of each month. So you can kind of predict that those disbursements again would happen like the end of October. Then our next distribution will be for October through December, and you wouldn't receive that money till the end of January.
So these are quarterly distributions and roughly within 30 days of end of quarter.
Correct.
Any further questions from commissioners?
This is Commissioner Lee.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lee.
It's not a financial question, it's just a registration question, and I'm not sure if I'm really clear on that. Because of the funding with some of the law enforcement and entities that have been funded for OHVs, is there a mechanism for those Nevada exempt agencies to obtain registrations for their OHVs, or do they go through the regular process like everyone else? Because, and Commissioner Koch said, well, they shouldn't have to register them if they're exempt. And I agree with that, but it looks pretty bad when we're running around with OHVs that don't have stickers on them and writing people that do. So I'm just curious if there was a way for that to occur, or if we just needed to go through the regular registration process even though we're exempt, or could be exempt. Thank you.
Doreen Rigsby, for the record, Department of Motor Vehicles. You are exempt through law, but if it's a choice of the organization or the law office to want to register those, it would be the regular process. Your admin or analyst could put each of your vehicles in one envelope and register them that way, but it would be the registration process would be the same.
Commissioner Drew?
Commissioner Jarrett for the record. Is there any provision from DMV for like an exempt registration? Obviously, patrol units have exempt plates. They still run a plate even though they don't have to register their vehicles. I think that's what Commissioner Lee was alluding to. Is there a way to get an exempt sticker that still shows a sticker, and then it also might help us with how many units, patrol units are, in the state that are exempt.
Current processes, Doreen Rigsby again, sorry, Department of Motor Vehicles. In current processes, there was not anything designed for an exempt sticker. Hasn't even come up in the last 2 years, so I'm not sure if the department could look at your proposal. If that's what law enforcement would like to talk to us about, we could probably look at it. It would be some programming, still cost of the sticker would still be an expense. But yes, we could look at it. I'm not sure why it was missed.
Commissioner Lee.
Commissioner Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, Commissioner Giroux, thank you for saying that, because that's exactly what I guess my question was, because not just the OHVs that have been funded through the funding in this last cycle, but existing OHVs from either law enforcement or municipal or whatever state or what. I mean, like Department of Wildlife, I'm sure has several OHVs. So it's just something to think about. I don't want it to. I hate to see it be a major cost, but in the same sense, like I said before, if people ask questions that, because we have exempt plates on our patrol cars, we don't just run around without plates on it. So if people say that, well, you're writing me a sticker violation, you don't have to have it, and we'll say, well, we're exempt. And anyway, it would be something to think about, whether you printed a whole other sticker, which I hate to see, or just had some kind of a mechanism that a government entity could apply for a sticker and get it done. Whatever. I mean, even though they're not that much, and I don't even have a problem paying for it, it's just a question that I know that I've been asked by other sheriffs and other entities who have gotten OHVs in the last little bit, specifically from our funding. How do they get them registered? So just something to think about. Maybe we can bring it up in the next one, and maybe you'd have an idea what we could do.
Thank you, Doreen Rigsby. We'll definitely take this back and talk with my administrator and let you know on the next one if you want to agendize that.
This is Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cox.
I just want to clarify, I do have a financial question. The $696,000 figure that was given out, we had talked about that being for a quarter, but is some of that funds, I'll say leftover funds from, there was a surplus at the time of the audit, and that's kind of what changed this funding mechanism. I just don't believe we get $600,000 a quarter. It's something to look forward to.
It'd be nice.
Yes, Heather Hawkins Fancher with the DMV for the record. That is correct. The $696,000 includes what we had left over from the previous year's operating expenses. So we did not expend the amount that we were receiving from that 85-15 split. So our projections show that, it was like $191,000 is what we're projecting each normal quarter you would receive. Again, we are trending a little bit above that, so that number is just a projection. But this time it did include that carryover.
Thank you.
Do you know what it was exactly for this quarter?
Again, Heather Hawkins Fancher for the record. No, I don't have that breakdown right now.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments?
Chairman Kay, Raylene Palmer for the record.
Go ahead, Raylene.
I have a concern that the DMV doesn't have that information. You know how much that you're providing. So the audit recommended transparency. The report has revenues through August 31st, expenses, at least part of them through September 13th. It's broken out with this 85-15 split that no longer applies pursuant to the change in the statute. So how is the commission able to determine that they're receiving the monies that they're supposed to be receiving without getting the dollar figures that the DMV is supposed to be providing?
Heather Hawkins Fancher for the record. I don't have that number with me today. We have that number, and I can get the commission that number. These figures were just determined late last night, and the distribution of the paperwork is just being processed today. So when I go back, I can have those numbers and I can get those to the chairman, but I just don't have them with me today.
And will there be a change in the reporting and the way it's being done moving forward from the current report and the format?
Heather Hawkins Fancher again for the record. This format is the format that was agreed on by the commission in the way that they would like for our information to be received. If there's additional changes that you want on future formats, we can discuss those.
Okay.
The statute changed, so the commission agreed to that format based on the allocation and the way it was done, but it's no longer useful information because that's not how they're receiving their revenues.
Again, Heather Hawkins Fancher for the record. Now, this format was agreed upon just a few meetings ago after the statute changes had already been put in place. So this was based on the recommendations from the gentleman who did the audit, suggested to the chairman, and in the format that we show the funds. So we have continued that format, obviously, with taking off the OHV's commission's column for revenues, because there's no revenues going to the commission. We will make the disbursements. There's an area on the report for those disbursements, but we haven't had any yet, so there's no dollar figure in that area.
This is Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Can I at least suggest that we get the revenue and expense for the month ending to be the same? I don't understand why the expenses are through September 13th, but the revenues are 8/31. At least if everything was month by month or quarter by quarter, the dates, then it would at least be easier to, put two and two together. We have this much revenue in one month, this much expense in that one.
Again, this is Heather Hawkins Fancher with the DMV for the record. We are trying to get those closer. Our September one we have gone through. The problem with that is that our revenues, we do get a bi-weekly report sent to us from our administrative services that show those revenue disbursements on those exact dates. The salaries are much more difficult because the pay periods carry over into the next month and so forth. So if we were to just cut off at the end, we do not have the salary reports for those exact dates because the pay periods go by 2-week periods, so it carries over into that next one. We're trying to go ahead and put that, of course, by doing so, as an example, our September report will show all of them ending on September 30th, but then the salaries are not an exact. It's, a picture of that time period.
Okay, so I guess I'm understanding then that the salaries that are shown on here of September 13th are actually salaries that were earned in August. And they're just reported, you just got them on September 13th, 2 weeks after the fact.
Doreen Rigsby for the record. We agreed upon putting in the report the first Monday of every month for the prior month. If you wanted to see exact dates, the only way we could do that is carry it out to be possibly the last Tuesday of every month for the prior month, so you wouldn't get your report until the last Tuesday of September, but it would cover all of August because of those pay periods running 2 weeks behind. So let's say we get paid on next Friday. We're not getting paid for the last 2 weeks. We're getting paid for the prior 2 weeks. So it's almost a month behind. That would be the only suggestion I would have to correct that. One of the concerns I have, though, is you keep saying September, and I'm looking at an August report, and I have August 16th for salaries and operating, but I don't have a September. So just for clarification.
Ms. Rigsby, what the commission needs is you said that there's going to be a quarterly distribution of $696, $135.29. So they need the numbers to reconcile how you reached that decision. That's what they need to have reported.
And this is Doreen Rigsby. Heather just mentioned that we have those. That is a whole different division that shows us those revenues, and we can go back and get those and send them to the commission. That's not a problem for the distribution. If they want more clarification on the distribution, a breakdown when the deposits come, we can add this to this if everybody agrees to that format. But currently, this is what we have is the full amount that's being transferred to you.
Okay. All right. May I suggest maybe Charlie, Raymond, put that stuff, send me an email, and we'll work with you guys to fine tune. Any further comments, questions? Thank you very much, and give our regards to Mr. Dillard. Wish him good luck.
Thank you.
Charlie, Treasurer's Report.
Charlie Cox. Yeah, I guess it's a number thing. Okay, so the Treasurer's Report as ending October 7th. So we had in the account we had $1,334,455.15, and of course by law we have to set aside 20% of that for grants. So our adjusted account balance is $1,145,617. Just as a point of interest, even though the money's been set aside for the law enforcement grants, to date we have not issued any checks that we were awarded. Then we had some expenses, all for wages for Kim Miller. In August it was $580. September it was $783. And then on October 7th it was $986. And we had one expense for our annual liability insurance of $1,330.21. So currently our account balance is $1,141,937.79, soon to increase by $696,000. Any questions?
Hearing none, thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner briefings. Any briefings from commissioners? Commissioner Jackson?
A subject that had been brought up in the past by Commissioner Lambert a few months ago, and I've sort of weighed in on this too. According to the state, we're supposed to be receiving a per diem as commission members, which we've all waived up until now because there wasn't any money in the bank. Would there be an opportunity to revisit that at our next scheduled meeting?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be clear, that you're entitled to reimbursement for travel expenses. They're not an actual per diem. Some boards are commissioned by statute. They can get $100 a day or something. That doesn't exist for this commission.
Okay. Look into it.
And one other thing. In deference to the people down south, some of who travel, 4 hours to get to a meeting, and are being very diligent about coming to our meetings, and it's a lot easier for some of us because we have to drive half an hour or 10 minutes to a meeting. Would it be possible to have at least one meeting a year or one meeting every 6 months, where we actually travel and all get together sort of on a one-day thing? We've done it before, I believe about a year ago or a year and a half ago. But would there be any appetite from the commission to do that? So obviously, if we had 2 a year, we'd have one in Vegas and one in the north here.
Any other commissioner comments? Okay. Yeah.
Commissioner Cox?
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Cox.
I guess in response to that, I do think it's a good idea that we all get together at least annually for the grant award meeting. So that's the opportunity, whether we hold it in the north or the south, to be determined.
All right. Yeah. For the record, Chairman McKay, I looked at our expense structure from the first, and we're right around a third of what we were allowed to spend as far as our expenses on the 5% administrative. So there are some funds there. I wanted to let you know that Commissioner Cox and myself and Commissioner Giroux will be attending a Nevada Division of Audit meeting next week to talk about how our books and structures and policies all want to be congruent with state stuff. There's a boards and commissions meeting later on the week, which Raylene's going to be presenting part of that discussion. I'll send you an email. You're all welcome to attend if you wish. It's going to be held simultaneously here and in Las Vegas. Any other comments by any commissioners, briefings? Okay. Very well, I'll go to public comment.
I'm sorry, this is Commissioner Lee.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Lee, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say that sheriffs and chiefs will be meeting in the first week of November, and we're on the agenda to discuss OHV issues and grants and, you know, or the monies that was allotted and stuff like that, in case anybody's interested. That will be I think it's the first Monday in November here in Vegas. And I've got us on the agenda for that.
Is that open to us?
You can observe, but yeah.
Yeah. Ask. Paul Jackson for the record. Sheriff Lee, is that open to us to go to observe, or is that a closed meeting?
Closed meeting. But if anybody from the commission wants to be at that portion, they're more than welcome to be at that portion of the meeting.
Okay, thank
you. Okay. Any more commissioner briefings? All right. Public comment? Is there any comment from Carson City? Okay, hearing none. Any public comment in Las Vegas? All right.
None.
Okay. None. Any public comment on the phone? Okay, hearing none. Probably next scheduled meeting is going to be when we score these applications. Actually, we'll be scoring them individually at home. But when we meet to decide to fund or not fund or what funding amount. And if we take this strictest schedule, it could actually be like the first week of January, because we went right into those holidays right there, Christmas and New Year's. Currently, I think there's 5 or 6 letters of intent, and the commissioners have that 30-day period to score. If the commissioners would entertain, being that there's a half a dozen applications, if they could do it sooner, we may be able to push it before the holidays. But that's the pleasure of the commission. Raylene, statutorily, if the commissioners want to review those quicker, does that violate any of our regulations or code?
Well, you caught me off guard. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the regulation.
Can you send us the information on who turned in a letter of intent?
I can, let's see. Don't hold me to it. Let's see. I'm going from memory right here. But Partners in Conservation is one. There's a advertising outfit in Reno called Zap Advertising. Let's see. The Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit there, the Forest Service. Geez. Let me get in there something.
Chad, not to belabor the point, but this is Paul Jackson. Would it be okay with Commissioner Baker if you just put the list together and email it to us?
I can email you a list, and I'll get it posted on our website also. How's that? That'd be a better solution. That work okay?
Chairman Kay, in answer to your question, so the non-voting advisors have 15 days after they receive the application from the grant office to ensure completeness and compliance.
Mm-hmm.
then the Office of Grants has, within 7 days of receiving it to the non-voting advisor, they have to return any applications to the applicants that are not complete within those 7 days. Since it will probably be past the deadline for them to correct any errors, anything that's not complete, there won't be time to receive those back. But if they did, then it goes to the scoring committee. They average this is after the voting, then the grants office averages the score. So once they get them back from the non-voting advisors and they're complete, a number will be assigned, and then it will be submitted to the grant scoring committee, and then within 30 days, it comes back to the grant office. Then the grants office will put the scores on them and send them back out. There'll be a notice meeting, and that's when the vote will take place.
Yeah. So
they've got 15 days, you've got 30 days.
Right. I guess probably my question was, if being that this is kind of a lighter load, do you think we can process them sooner, or do you want to keep your entire 30 days to score these? So I think I'll send an email out and see what the opinion is of the group, or we got to keep it 30 days
No.
for the reg.
Yes.
Okay, then we're
He's getting an opinion out of the open meeting.
all right. Then that meeting will be after the first of the year, probably like January 8th, that first Thursday, for that meeting to when our individual scores are revealed and the discussion to fund or not fund and that type of stuff. So very well.
So like December something?
It'll be January. Yeah.
Should I have a meeting in December?
I think we'll see how this whole thing goes with the partner agency and stuff. So.
Well, yeah, that's right.
All right.
Commissioner Jackson, would it be, since we are working through the partner agency issue and the employee issue, which is very, very important, could we entertain having a meeting late November or possibly early December, but probably late November, to report on and vote on our partner agency issue? I mean, it could be a telephone meeting, especially if there's only one or two agenda items.
Okay. All right. We'll shoot for another one middle of November. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Lambert.
I believe that due to the new laws, we have to meet every 45 days to approve minutes, whether it's a telephone meeting or in person.
Commissioner Lambert, for the record, Chairman McKay, that we got in that situation only because we did not have minutes ready by a regularly scheduled meeting. If we deal with the minutes at our next regularly scheduled meeting, I don't believe we violate that statute. You could correct me if I'm wrong, Raylene.
No, that's correct. It's 45 days or at your next regularly scheduled meeting, whichever is later.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
I'll send you some dates. We'll shoot for a month from now and go from there. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Commissioner Jackson, for the record.
Second?
Second, Commissioner Lambert.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.